and welcome to the Scramble. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tomi Lahren. Well, after years of anticipation, anxiety, and media attention, the 2014 Winter Games are finally underway in Sochi, Russia. Our panel will discuss the much talked about security concerns surrounding this year's games in Sochi. And next we'll move to a discussion on Russian President Vladimir Putin's anti-gay propaganda laws as they relate to athletes and spectators alike. In keeping with the sports theme, we will discuss this year's Super Bowl commercials, specifically Coca-Cola's America the Beautiful commercial, as well as the depiction of the modern American family in the much talked about Cheerios commercial. But before we hit the ground running, I'd like to introduce our panel. Joining us today, we have Jennifer Lease, a graduate student in Journalism and Media Studies. Also here today is China Green, a senior in Journalism and Media Studies. We also welcome back Mark Ciavola, CSUN Student Body President and Senior in Political Science. And last but not least, we welcome our new panelist, Wesley Yule. He is a Senior in Journalism and Media Studies, and it's nice to have you here with us today, Wesley.
Thank you.
Well, thanks everyone for being here. And months before the 2014 Winter Games even started, the news media was saturated with talks of security concerns at this year's Olympic site in Sochi, Russia. Days before the opening ceremonies, international intelligence reported the potential threat of explosives in carry-on toothpaste tubes. Next came a threat in the skies from a Ukrainian nationalist threatening to disrupt the opening ceremonies. Fears of female so-called black widows have also continued as the games progress. Besides the horrid accommodations, the bum snowflake debacle, beer-colored drinking water, and a lack of snow, the games seem to be going off without a hitch. What do you guys make of these security concerns, and would you guys travel to Russia despite these concerns? I guess we'll open it up. Jenny, what about you?
Well, a few days ago, they had Russian forces killed 5 suspected terrorists.
Okay.
So, and what's strange is I was watching the Winter Games, and I saw that come up on like a little news thing, and then when I went back later to search that,
right,
there wasn't a lot of news coverage on that, and Russia really hasn't released information to the U.S. and they're not
very transparent
at all.
Correct. Okay. So, Mark, what do you think about this? What do you think about the lack of transparency? Should they be sharing more with our intelligence?
I mean, this is Russia.
Okay.
I mean, this is what happens when you award the Olympics based on corruption or politics, or if you think this is great, wait till Rio. We need to start, the Olympic Committee in general, I think, needs to start awarding these games to countries that can sustain them, that are prepared for them. And over the past few cycles, I think they've had this priority of awarding them to countries to sort of give them an opportunity to step it up and be on the world stage,
economy,
like China,
right?
And but I think that's wrong. I had the privilege of being at the Olympics in Vancouver in 2010, and
okay,
there were a lot of challenges in Vancouver. They went over budget. It was a lot of work for them, but by and large, it was a smooth, Winter Games, and this is Canada. So you go to Russia, or you go to China, or you go to Rio, and you're going to have these problems. So I think you just need to do better on site selection.
On site selection. So do you think that we should have taken that to account? The International Olympic Committee should have taken the security concerns. They knew that there were Islamic extremists in the area. Do you think that should have been a consideration?
Well, and Russia's had a long time problem with separatists from Chechnya, and
right,
so I mean there are a lot of these issues, and I don't know if they ever had to prove that they were prepared to handle this type of an event, a worldwide spectacle like this, but obviously they're really not ready.
And this is the most expensive Olympic Games in history, spending $51 billion, yet I'm sure you guys have seen some of the Sochi problems. What do you guys think of the accommodations in Russia? Have you been following that on social media at all? Wesley, how about yourself?
I just feel bad for these athletes. They train for years, and then they go to Russia, of all places, and they can't find working toilets. They've got this orange drinking water you mentioned. It just makes me feel really bad for them.
China, would you have gone to Russia if you had the opportunity? Would you be nervous at all?
Oh, yeah, I'd be extremely nervous. I mean, anytime you go on Facebook or Twitter, all it is pictures of these athletes and in these rooms or toilets where you have to share, or everything, or a room where it's just like 15 toilets. There is no privacy anywhere. It seems that every hotel I've seen pictures of, they're not finished.
Right.
They're not finished.
That was a huge problem.
Yeah, and I'll agree with you. This is what they train for, and it should be something, the highlight of their career. And then to go to places that can't sustain this Olympic, it's just, I feel bad as well.
I will give credit to Molson, though. Molson installed a beer vending machine in the Olympic Village that you can scan your Canadian passport and get free beer.
Just if you're
so I think that's amazing, and I just want to know how to get a Canadian passport.
Canadians.
But do you trust that beer, though?
Yeah, it's a vending machine. It's bottled and everything. It's great.
Oh, okay.
Well, the thing that would bother me the most is just the water. I mean, the water is so bad. I mean, it comes out, it's like orange color, you know, in a lot of the places, and you can't wash your face with it. And that's like the scariest, you know, knowing you've got to go out and get drinking water or bottled water. And I know one of the media professionals, they went out thinking they bought a bunch of bottled water, and it ended up being gin instead.
Oh, okay. That's a
bonus.
surprise.
I mean, I'll be honest, I saw some of the pictures of the bathrooms coming in, and I've seen some bathrooms on this campus that look like that. So, but no, I mean, obviously you need to make sure that you're really prepared, and Russia just isn't, you know.
And I mean, they've spent so much money on these games. It's like record-breaking numbers. So it's kind of surprised, like how poor the accommodations are. I mean, they've spent so much money on this, you know, special train and all kinds of stuff going on.
And snow.
And
just kind
snow.
of the last thing I want to touch on is
snow.
that's true. The weather is heating up, and that's a whole nother issue for debate. But just touching on the security concerns, the last bit I'd like to say is, you know, they were telling the athletes as well as the spectators, especially from the United States, don't display the American flag, be very discreet. What do you guys think about this? Do you think that that's a smart idea, not to be so patriotic at this year's games?
I mean, you're talking to a guy who spent his birthday 4 years ago in Vancouver singing the national anthem through the streets after the U.S. beat Canada. It's on YouTube. And, you know, I mean, I think you should be proud of where you come from. And that's the point of the Olympics. And everybody is there. Everybody's representing their country. So everyone should be patriotic to their own nation. And perhaps we shouldn't have the Olympics in a country that doesn't respect that. But again, it just goes back to, you know, having a better selection process, I think.
But at the same time, I can see wanting to have the games in Russia and help diplomacy at the same time.
But it's not the job of the Olympics Committee to help diplomacy. You know, Rio, for example, who has the next Summer Games, they have the highest murder rate in the world. So now we're sending our athletes not just to a place where they have to kick the bathroom door down or get stuck in an elevator or, you know, share toilets and have orange water, but we're going to send them to the murder capital of the world. I just don't think this is smart, especially when, for example, Rio was up against Chicago, which, by the way, high murder rate, I get it, but at the same time, you know, at least the United States has the infrastructure to be able to handle this type of event, handle security, you know, and handle these concerns. And I think that the Olympic Committee needs to not make diplomacy and politics and all of these other issues the key, but actually go to nations that can support the type of event that comes out. Because I'll be honest, I've never seen anything like the Olympics being in Vancouver in 2010. Right. It is unlike anything you've ever seen.
Well, kind of staying with that theme of security concerns, and of course, Russia, as though these concerns weren't enough, President Putin's anti-gay stance has caused protests and international scrutiny. What do you guys make of this anti-gay propaganda policy, and should the United States have boycotted the games based on this principle? Wesley, let's open it up to you. What do you think about this issue?
Well, I don't think the United States should have boycotted the games. Like I already kind of touched on, the athletes trained so hard for it, and honestly, I'm pretty impressed with how professional they are about it. I mean, especially when you're considering it's like figure skating. I'm pretty sure I would come out in a rainbow like, hey, let's do some figure skating. And they're just being really professional and doing their job. So I think that's really cool. But I think that these sort of human rights issues should come into play when you're choosing these kinds of sites, and they should definitely affect international relations.
And we did send a delegation from the United States. It was made up of 3 gay athletes, former athletes. What do you think, that was a strong enough message by President Obama, or do you think we could have had a stronger stance on it?
I don't think it was a very strong message at all. It's very kind of, it's kind of like an under-the-table message, because sure, there's a bunch of gay people in Russia, but is anyone actually saying anything or doing anything about it? No, they're going to probably come back and talk about it, but I don't think that's actually helping the Russian dialogue. And this is a country, too, where I would never go to as a gay man, because since this anti-propaganda law passed, you have like vigilante groups going out and shooting up gay bars and setting fires and out patrolling for homosexuals to cleanse the streets. Like, it's not a safe place. I would never go to Russia.
China, I know you're passionate about the gay rights issues. What do you think about them choosing Russia despite these anti-gay stances?
I mean, I feel very strongly about this. It really irritates me that this is an issue anywhere, but for the Olympic Games, I feel like anybody who's gay or straight, that should have absolutely nothing to do with the games or who wins. But I feel like on the street, not everybody is from Russia. They're from all around the world, so we should accept them for who they are, and we shouldn't have to conform to Russia's rules and laws and regulations as far as who we decide to marry. So if we want to, if I had a girlfriend and I wanted to kiss her in the street because I just won the Olympics, I should be able to do that, and I shouldn't be penalized for it.
Well, I think it's also important to note that Putin did say that he would kind of suspend these laws during the games, although there has been, of course, mixed signals that would suggest otherwise. However, what he did say is we just want to protect the children. So, Mark, what do you think about his stance on anti-gay propaganda laws protecting children and minors?
Well, I don't look. People will make all the reasons in the world to pass laws. I mean, I think that Russia needs to do what Russia needs to do to have the best country it can for its people, right? But at the end of the day, when we're talking about where we host the Olympics, as long as Russia understands that there are gay athletes, that gay athletes will be coming to Russia for the games, and that people who are gay will be attending the games, and they have to understand that they need to, relax on those laws for the purpose of hosting the Olympics, then I don't see it as much of a concern. But although we've seen a lot of other concerns, I think, that are more serious than that one. But you take for a minute, you look at a lot of Middle Eastern countries, for example, that have even harsher laws against homosexuality. I mean, you look at Iran, they will murder you in the street and hang you as a public spectacle. Right. And not that Tehran is being considered as a site for the Olympics, although under the diplomacy angle, I wouldn't be surprised given this Olympic committee. But at the same time, I don't know if I were the president that I would send a delegation of gay military members over to Iran to negotiate things.
Okay.
I think you have to understand how delicate of a situation this is, and I think it's more of a let's get through this Olympics versus let's make political statements and things like that, because these are real people, and these are real people who have to live there long after the games are over.
Well, also in the United States, there's about 8 states that have similar anti-gay propaganda laws within their schools. So, even here in the United States, we have states that do have this kind of like a backwoods type mentality.
I don't know. It just depends. I don't know that we need to be teaching homosexual education in kindergarten, first grade, second grade. I understand that as a society, we're moving toward, a nation where relationships pretty much look like whatever they look like, and obviously to have that represented in children's books and things like that will eventually probably be a thing. But I also know how this country has wrestled with these issues in the past, whether it's interracial relationships or gay relationships, and these things take time. So you can't announce there's an Olympic Games and think that in the span of time that they're planning for these games, they're going to fix their social problems. I think that's unrealistic.
I agree with you on that, but he said this is to protect the kids. Like, what evidence supports that me seeing 2 girls kissing when I'm 4 years old, I'm going to be a lesbian? That there's no evidence to support this. And that.
No, I would agree with you on that. I don't think that it is, but I do think that we've seen similar things in this country where there's been disagreements about including gay education in the schools, and there are people who have big problems with that, and a lot of them it's faith-based. But again, when parents are trying to raise their children with their set of values, whatever they happen to be. And the schools go into educating them on things that maybe the children aren't ready to be absorbing. These are just bigger issues than can be dealt with in the span of an Olympic Games.
I'm going to cut you off just for a minute, because speaking of political statements, we're going to have plenty of time to discuss that when we move on to the Super Bowl commercials right after the break. Stay with us.
Oh, hey, bud.
Oh.
Where are you headed?
Just gonna hang out.
It's a school night. With Gary and Todd?
Yeah.
Not sure about those two. I've been meaning to ask you. This is tougher than I thought. Is there any drinking going on in this crowd?
No.
I hope not, because alcohol can lead you to say things and do things that you really wish you hadn't. Isn't this what you're supposed to say?
I know.
So if any of your buddies ever pressure you to take a drink, just tell them you promised your dad you wouldn't. I'd do anything to keep you safe.
Okay, I will.
I hope this is working.
I promise. Love you too, Dad.
They really do hear you.
Brian,
Yeah.
So start the conversation even before they're teenagers.
Good idea.
For tips on what to say, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Welcome back from the break, and thanks for staying with us. Now, the overwhelming Seattle Seahawks victory was not the only buzzworthy aspect of Super Bowl 48. If you're like me, you may have been watching the game for one reason and one reason only: the commercials. Always epic, this year's Super Bowl commercials stirred up quite the controversy. I'm speaking, of course, about two commercials in particular. The first of which is the Coca-Cola commercial featuring multilingual rendition of America the Beautiful. Some found it refreshing, while others deemed it hard to swallow. The commercial brought several themes to light, including the assimilation of other cultures into American society, immigration reform, and acceptance of same-sex relationships. Facebook and Twitter exploded with viewer reactions. Panelists, what are your reactions to this Coca-Cola commercial at this year's Super Bowl? Wesley, let's start with you.
I think it makes sense, actually. I think the dynamic in America stopped being this melting pot assimilation dynamic a long time ago. It's more of this salad bowl, multicultural kind of thing. And I think the Super Bowl audience probably reflects that kind of diversity. So I think it's a natural move to have that sort of advertising. But I will tell you, when I was watching the Super Bowl, I knew immediately there was going to be blowback from those commercials. I was sitting there watching this foreign language, America the Beautiful, and I was like, the internet trolls are about to go crazy.
Mark, was it going too far? What are your thoughts?
Well, look, I think that companies create advertising that's going to make people buy their product, get noticed, especially during the Super Bowl,
Right.
and we're talking about it, so clearly it worked. But at the same time, I have to be honest, when we're talking about the Coca-Cola ad specifically, I will tell you that as somebody who loves my country and believes that America has a unique place in the world as a beacon of freedom and democracy, and I'm not saying that to sound corny, I really do believe that, that it would be my dream that people are singing America the Beautiful in every country on this earth in whatever language they speak. And you know, we talk about how great it is that the Bible has been translated into hundreds of languages, or that American movies or music translate into other languages and TV shows, and that our culture is permeating other countries across the planet. There are people living on this earth that love the concept of America, and Coca-Cola exhibits Americanness just because of its foundation here in America, and it's a staple here. So, no, I mean, I think it's wonderful that we can celebrate that so many people in so many countries of this earth love America, love Coca-Cola, and can do so even in their own languages.
Jenny, what do you say to the critics that exploded on social media about this?
Well, I don't think that they should be so shocked that Coca-Cola is doing this. Decades ago, they've done the same thing. Their big stance is on multiculturalism, and they've
It's a global
had
brand.
Yeah, songs about basically kind of like holding hands and people from all different kinds of races and backgrounds and ethnicities. So I mean, this isn't out of the box for Coca-Cola. So the fact that people are kind of like so shocked that they would do this is kind of surprising to me. You know, because Coca-Cola has a history of doing these kinds of commercials.
China, what about you? Were you surprised to see something like this on such a national stage as the Super Bowl, the most watched television event of the entire year?
I mean, I wasn't surprised of the commercial because, you know, it's what America is. You know, we have different cultures. You know, just because you speak another language doesn't mean you're un-American in any way. You know, you can be born and raised and, you know, you speak in a language because of your culture. And we need to remember that this isn't the national anthem. This is a song talking about how beautiful America is. So other cultures singing this song, I don't feel like people should have been going on Facebook as hard as they should about this. And then, you know, there's different cultures. There's gay people, there's straight people. And just because it was on a commercial, we shouldn't be surprised that that's what we see when we walk down the street. So,
I mean, decades ago, Coke had a commercial with the song "Teach the World to Sing."
Right.
Yeah.
And they did. And they taught them America the Beautiful. And I think that's great.
All right, well, we're going to keep with the food and beverage industry. Another commercial that sparked some debate was the Cheerios commercial displaying an interracial family. Now, this is not the first appearance of this so-called American family. The Cheerios first rocked the boat when they aired this commercial in May, and it ignited some racist comments, but also generated an outpouring of support. General Mills said at the time that they cast the actors to reflect the changing U.S. population. What do you guys think? Is the Super Bowl an appropriate place to push these themes? Jenny?
I say yes, especially for Cheerios. I mean, they said that they were going to do this. They had a lot of blowback for the first round of commercials that they did. And they said, you know what, we like this family so much, and we like what we're doing, that we're going to put this into the Super Bowl. And they said that. So, I mean, they're kind of following what they said. And I think people have adjusted more to this round of the commercials than before. And, you know, most people are just talking about how the adorable aspect of the commercials with incorporating like barter to get like a dog, you know, within the family. So I think people I think it's good that they're putting these commercials that could be a little bit controversial, and people are starting to accept them more at the same time. So.
See, I don't know that it's a good or a bad thing. I think that companies are going to do what they do for advertising. I think there are interracial couples in this country. Some of them probably eat Cheerios. But by no means are they a majority of the couples in this country. So I don't think Cheerios is trying to say that couples should be interracial. I don't think they're trying to say it's good or bad. I think it's just a commercial. And if people choose to not eat Cheerios because they put an interracial couple in their ad, they're entitled to do that. You know, they have the right to sort of vote with their feet and choose a different cereal. But at the same time, I don't know why it's such a big issue when, you know, we know that interracial couples exist. They're on sitcoms on TV, not even just sitcoms, but, you know, TV shows. They're everywhere in movies, and whether they're straight or gay or whatever. So I don't see this as being out of the ordinary. I think people just like to complain about things, and, you know, they cannot eat Cheerios.
What do you think if the commercial had been a little bit different? Say it would have depicted a same-sex couple in the same way.
I mean, if it was a gay interracial couple, I think it would have been even worse blowback. But the reality is,
would
these
that
still
have been
exist.
Appropriate?
There are still gay interracial couples in this country, and some of them probably eat Cheerios. So, you know, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. It is a thing. It's advertising, and companies are going to do what gets them the attention that they want for their product. No one can deny that Cheerios got attention for their product.
They absolutely did.
And so by all means, Cheerios has won, Coca-Cola has won, and Coca-Cola continues to air that ad to rub it in everybody's face while they're making money. So I think that, you know, we just need to see this as what it is. It's advertising.
So Wesley, I'd like to ask you, is this the wave of the future? Do you think sporting events are going to be the new political arena? Do you think that's the direction we're moving towards, and should it be?
I think so, actually. In terms of, like, gay rights and stuff like that, I think sports is one of the final frontiers. There's a long history of homophobia in sports.
Okay.
I think that Missouri guy that just came out,
Michael Samms, yes, I did want to touch on that as well.
He just came out, and there was a lot of strong reactions in the NFL. That NBA player came out last year, and then he's not even playing on a team this year. This thing with the Olympics, like athletics and homosexuality is going to happen.
I do feel it's worth pointing out, though, that the player from the NBA, there's a lot of reasons why he's not playing this year.
That wasn't
not because he's
that
gay.
wasn't a single
He was not
issue.
doing very well. He'd been on like 6 teams in the last 4 years. So, you know, I hate to go down that road.
Jenna, I want to ask you, what do you think? You know, you did bring up Michael Samms. What do you think about the NFL and being a little bit more gay friendly? Do you think that that's something that's possible in the coming years?
I think it should be. I mean, a person's orientation shouldn't have anything to do with how they play. You know, what if Michael Vick came out and he was gay?
Well, Michael Vick is a whole nother arena of issues, but
but what I'm saying is what they do in their personal life, as long as they're getting the job done, you know, it is what it is. And as far as the Cheerio commercial, I feel like people shouldn't have said, oh, it's inappropriate. How is it inappropriate? Like I said before, when you walk down the street, you're going to see that. And as far as the gay thing, one of the most watched, highest rated shows right now is Modern Family, and there's 2 gay guys on there who adopted a little girl, and people love it, and they're not going hard on Facebook about it. You know, it is what it is. We see it every day, and it shouldn't be this huge, oh my goodness, there's a black guy and a white girl, and they had a mixed baby. Like, well, what do you think is going to happen?
But again, you know, I just want to reiterate that I think we need to not assign good or bad to these things. You know, it's it's advertising or it's.
Is it possible, Mark, though, for it to be neutral when it does cause somewhat of a firestorm?
I mean, with the advertising, I think it's advertising. When you have a player who says he's openly gay before an NFL draft, it obviously creates a storm of media attention, and who knows how that will affect his ability to find a team.
Do you believe it will?
We don't know.
I guess that'd be my next question
I don't think it
for
will
you.
because he's a good player, but at the same time, he wasn't expected to be a first-round draft pick. So I think that we'll have to wait and see what happens. But a team that takes him understands that they're going to end up with a lot more media attention because of it, and it will undoubtedly create an added layer of attention and. I don't want to say distractions because these people are professionals, they do it for a living, but these are things that you take into consideration. But I do think, again, you see it more in pop culture, although as a gay man, I have to say that Modern Family doesn't really portray all gay people.
Okay.
I know it doesn't portray
Noted.
me accurately, but but it is entertaining, and with that respect, you want to make sure it doesn't border into the, kind of we're just poking fun at gay people being stereotypically gay. You know what I mean? So I think you just have to be careful with how you approach it. But this is America, and this is how we're, as a country, we're full of everything. It's very diverse.
But then if he doesn't get picked, they're going to say, oh, it's because he came out. And it's
much like the
that's gonna
NBA
get the
player
attention.
who wasn't
It's
very good
ridiculous.
last year and who has been around.
I guess
and,
we will have
so
to
you
we
never
will have to
really know.
wait for the draft to see what's going to happen with that. But I guess we will hope that we're moving in a more progressive direction. But that's all the time we have today. So now you know what we think. Let us know what you think. Share your opinions and any ideas or topics you'd like us to scramble about to thescramble.unlv@gmail.com. You can also catch full episodes of The Scramble at unlv.tv. For all of us here at The Scramble, thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you next time.